Yeah, thank you so much for having me today, and followed by the great talk that we just had. I'll just extend the conversation to the same. So the topic that we are currently working on, maybe we'll be discussing throughout in the next 20-25 minutes, would be around building and scaling UX teams. So my idea was that among us, a lot of might not be in the managerial positions, right? A lot of us might be in the individual contributor position at the moment. At the screen that you can see, these are some of the fellows that I'm currently working with, the amazing design team at Scalar. What we are working at Scalar is basically trying to build the tech school of the future, where we are making sure that people who are getting into tech are really ready for the job opportunities out there. It's a combination of edtech and job tech company where we make sure that what learnings are required by the industry are basically given to these students. And we have a agnostic team of around 25 to 30 people at Scalar right now, who is currently working on, especially on the product design part. Now, when it comes to managing a team or building a team, there might be multiple stakeholders that you might have to come across and try to engage with in order to make sure that is if it is the right time to build a design team and if it is the right time to scale that team or not. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, that among us, a few of us might be not coming from a managerial background, right? So for those people who are currently working as a UX designer, or if even if you're from a different background, just treat this presentation as a reference point that even if you are working as an IC, what you can do to make sure in your team itself that these are things I want to improve upon to scale the team at some point, or maybe if you're looking for step up in the game itself, but at some point of time I want to go ahead and maybe become a manager in my own team. So these pointers will be helpful for you to sort of build and scale your own design teams. Before I jump into the specifics of it, just giving a small introduction about where I'm coming from. So on the right hand side, you can see the beautiful teams. Not all everybody was there in the office that day, but this is majority of the team that we have here. I'm currently leading a product and design team at Scalar. The platform itself is huge, around 7 to 8 million active users throughout the whole platform. And apart from working at Scalar, I also do consulting outside, and I keep doing stuff around in the crypto space. I keep on building more and more products with Bad Unicorn, more like the mischief that you might have heard of. And I am also active into angel investing and all the stuff. Why I felt that this is something that we need to talk about is because when it comes to hiring and scaling teams, there is very less thought process gotten into that if this is the right time to scale or not. We usually just look at hiring as a point when we feel that the bandwidth is the only issue. But just having bandwidth as an issue should not be the only reason you should go ahead and start hiring. So to sort out the whole conversation, I have laid down 4 pillars that will decide that if it is the right time to hire or not, and if you are planning to expand your team, what could be the steps that you might need to take in order to make sure that the company is going in the right direction. Secondly, if you're working as an IC, or if you are individually contributing to a company as a designer or as a product manager, or from the tech background as well, these pillars will help you to sort of retrospect your journey as well, that where do I stand in terms of expanding my role in the company as well. That let's say if you are currently working as an design IC, but you want to become a design manager at some point of time, these are things that you need to make sure that you are following up when it comes to scaling those teams. So laying down those 4 pillars very quickly. The first comes the part where we talk about the hiring and the recruitment part. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, that a lot of us start hiring right up front when we feel that there is a crunch in terms of bandwidth from the design team, right? But are you really in the state of hiring more and more people or not? A lot of people confuse hiring with scaling, which two are not really the. I mean, there is some clash between the two, but those are not exactly the same terms. When it comes to hiring, you should definitely look into the business goals that you have in front of you. Where do you want to achieve? Are you planning to have any new sort of avenues coming into the picture that you want to hire for? Because what happens, let's say if today is a crunch in terms of design that you're facing, that might go within a week or two if you hire somebody. But let's say your work was more temporarily issued for the company altogether. After 1 month or 2 months down the line, you cannot just go ahead and say to those people that you just hired that you are not required anymore, right? So make sure that when we are hiring, those are assets and not leverages to the company. What is the bandwidth that is required? What are the future plans of the company? And then it comes that why if it is clear that we need to hire some people, then you need to make sure that the requirements of the job are really, really specific. For example, in a small scale company that I'm, let's say, building a team of 7 to 8 designers, or 7 to 8 in total people in the company. We are just at the seed stage right now. I might want somebody who can wear multiple hats, who can help the marketing team as well in sort of making graphics and all the stuff. But let's say if I'm at a later stage, I want somebody specific to do something specific, right? Let's say I'm a team of, let's say, 20 to 25 people right now. I might want somebody who can help me build and sort of go ahead and engage everybody to work on the design systems right away. That might be the right approach in terms of deciding what role I am really hiring for. Just extending to the same, do I need someone who is good with design systems? Do I need someone who is really good with UI skills? When it comes to design skills, right? A lot of people come from a good problem solving background, that give me any business problem and I'll try to solve it with the design. But a few people are also coming from the UI design, perspective altogether, that I am really good with graphics and design. Just give me any wireframe and I'll make sure that it's the most beautiful UI out there. So depending on the persona that you are trying to hire for, not do not just decide when you are sitting in an interview that okay, this guy is really nice, but understand your requirements first. That for example, I want to hire somebody who has really good research skills, which will help me to understand where the product direction should go into. So on your end, before getting into hiring, just make sure that I want these kind of skills. Now if you are working as a designer right now, try to retrospect yourself that what are my key skills that I really want, I'm good at, and these are the things that I want to be good at. For example, if I am a designer who is really good at let's say research tasks and activities, I might want to double down on those things and prove it as that these are my key skills that I can give me any task on these things and I'll make sure that it is the best work out there. um, it's good to wear multiple hats all the time, but you should have some specific key holdings with yourself that these are things that I'm really good at. Then comes that when it comes to hiring, if the candidate is good towards learning something new or not. For example, if you are in a whiteboarding round and you see somebody who is really bad at UI skills, or maybe they don't think through the UX of the whole page, are they really sort of willing to learn from your feedbacks, or are they just getting into the critique session or not taking up the feedbacks really, really well? So those attitude problems, I feel, come at a later stage when you have to face those things, and those things become leverage for a longer and longer time. Time management is the other thing. That what sort of availability are you looking for? Do you think that the work that you are looking for is sort of temporary and it should do the job if I just go ahead and hire somebody on a contractual basis, right? Collaborating towards scale. Now, this is again the same point where I mentioned that scale could not be achieved by just one person who is trying to build or maybe scale the team. Efficiency comes along the way, and what the person is, if you are getting onboarded onto the team, if he's really into collaborating with other people, and then again the problem solving skills. Now comes the second pillar, which is the developing and the empowering part, where we make sure that the people you have hired are you are making the best out of them. Now, when it comes to building a team, you must have seen that every designer, every tech people will have their own set of qualities, right? That they're really good at. So try to make sure that based on the qualities that the designer is inheriting right now, which team and which product he should be the part of, because that really decides the outcome of that designer as well. Understanding that okay, he's really good with UX or UI and research tasks. And if you are working as a designer, I'll suggest that you identify your top qualities and try to engage yourself in those tasks as well. um, Try to be volunteer in those tasks as well. That for example, if a sprint is coming along for a new page throughout the company, try to be a part of it because you feel that it's something that I really enjoy doing. Second part is, which I learned the hard way, was that are they really somebody who wants to take the ownership? So as a design leader, you want everybody to become sort of self-sufficient and take ownership of the task they're working on. But let's face the truth, right? That no, not everybody is made to take the ownership. Some people really need some hand holding towards the journey. So it's your job to identify that who you should be giving the ownership to and who are the people you should be sort of making them eligible to get that ownership going way forward. Always push for one role above is the my key idea around whenever I have to sort of give anybody someone a responsibility, right? If you are at product designer one level or two level, always try to make sure that you are managing upwards. that not somebody is coming to you at daily at a stand up asking you that what are you doing today, and those are like the key area around how you should be doing ahead is that you should be the guy who is managing upwards, that you are telling them that I have done this, and I think that we should be doing this next. What happens in that scenario is that the other person who was managing you will try to get inputs from your side as well whenever something new comes up. And pro- second part, which is I have seen majorly in the companies, is that when it comes to the ROI of designers, right? We basically ask them what are the needle movers that you have worked upon. If you can share those needle movers and all the stuff around the same, it's really hard to put out those needle movers, right? So what end up happening is that we as a product people or design people, we try to create needle movers. Let's try to do this change that will change this, and we can show this change, right? Never get into that cycle, because once that happens, right, you start taking shortcuts over and over again. And needle movers are fine to have, but let's not enforce those needle movers as the only key takeaway from this point. And then the feedback circle, which I'll focus more on the collaboration part as well, but never wait for the performance reviews to understand where you're lacking, and try to learn more and more skills over the time. Because design is an ever growing field where you will see that a lot of things are coming along from the Adobe XD to Figma. A lot of things have changed from Lottie files and all the stuff. So it's an ever growing stage, right? Keep organizing workshops that pushes to learn. If you are an IC, try to learn it yourself if your team is not doing it for you. And building towards scale, which I'll focus in the next slide itself, which comes under the collaboration and the communication part. Now, since you have made sure that the hiring is done right, and you have made sure that the key sort of qualities of every designer has been utilized in the right way. Now it's the time to understand how we can make sure that the collaboration between those people and the communication between those people basically is the most efficient possible out there. Now, not everything needs to be business ROI. That we need to understand that every activity that you do inside a design team, you cannot relate it to the business return on investment of your time, right? There will be some activities which are outside work that will help your team to engage with each other. For example, just a sort of activity that we organized called the Buddy program that we recently launched at Scalar, which lets so we have multiple pods, right? Each company have multiple pods. For example, the marketing pod could be there, and then within the design pod itself, there might be sub products that each designer might be working upon. What happens over time is that people get isolated in their own pod. That somebody who is working on the marketing end, who is creating graphics and everything, might not get to know a lot about what's happening on the dashboard end, and that reduces the collaboration between those people. So we need to make sure that the collaboration uh, not necessarily come from working together. If you can put those two people into some activity, let it be the fun activity or just open up a discussion. So what we did in the Buddy program, we just organized a 45 minutes call between two random people who were not working together at all, and gave them some icebreakers to talk about. And the outcome of the Buddy program was really impressive, that these people were sort of getting feedbacks outside their pods as well. When you let's say if I'm working on the marketing and I design something new, I might go outside into the common channel, ask that how do you people feel about this design, right? And design is a collaborative task altogether. Any one people can design it, and a group of people can also design it, right? So why not take inputs from as many people as possible who can give critiques which are really useful to improve that design, instead of some isolated person working on a design by himself. Second part, don't make people hate their jobs, which I like often push along in the teams. That good design cannot be a forced outcome. That's why let them enjoy in the company of other people as well. So, for example, if you and I are working on different projects, but we're really good friends with each other, I might just show you some designs and get your input more passively rather than asking you in a group in a more professional way. So those are the things which I feel that these activities are do not have a direct ROI in that sense, but really help the users or their team members to engage with each other and get feedbacks around the same. Now leaders need to set the path that ICs won't find, right? Now, if you are an IC right now, I'll suggest to put more focus here to understand what you should be doing to sort of move that ladder up and see that what you can do in terms of managing people upwards. Now, design systems, documentation, and libraries, these things come in when you are scaling your team, right? That more and more people are joining, your sort of designs are getting so much complex that you need some sort of hierarchy in the system itself. I won't suggest that if you're a team of 2 to 3 people to go ahead and start building design systems, because that is a good exercise for sure, but this might not be the right time to build a design system, right? Documentation, for example, let's say if you are working on something for 6 months and now somebody else have to take over that same task, or if you worked on something and 6 months down the line you feel that this is not working right, now you have to go back and see what you did in it about it in the first place, but you don't have any place to go about and see what happened in the first place. So in that case, documentation works really well. So even if you're working as an IC, do focus on these things where with time you are making sure. So the game is not about adding design systems into the system or start documenting things. The whole game is about identifying the right time to implement these things. The last part of this pillar comes in that bring those minds together, as I mentioned in the collaboration part as well. That having those sessions where you are critiquing about a new product, which is like yet to go live in, let's say, in the next sprint or something, and you are taking everybody from the product and dev team, maybe because the problem solving skills, which I have seen personally in my experience as well, that what product and dev team comes up from their background, and they see share some knowledge around that why this thing will take more time. You tend to think in that direction only. For example, if today you are sharing your thoughts with the dev people, the developers, and they share that this design will take more than a month to just to build this whole design thing that you have just shared, in the next iteration or maybe at some later stage, you might think before even picking up or maybe starting with the move tool in your Figma, you will think that whatever I'm trying to design, will it fit in the product and the dev loop or not? Will it take so much bandwidth or not? Should I go ahead and design an MVP first before working on something huge? So the collaboration, not just within the design team, but with other stakeholders as well, helps really well over the period of time when it comes to product building. Then second part is that when you start engaging with other team members, right, try to reduce the gap between hierarchy. So I face this problem that one of my interns in my current company, they said that I didn't share, or maybe I didn't ask you this question because I was really nervous to ask this question from you, since you are really high in the hierarchy, which I felt should not happen in any team. That people should feel confident when they have to sort of put the thoughts out there, and it's you as a leader, or even if you're working as an IC, it's your job to make sure that you are sitting in a round table whenever you are having a discussion. The more the ladder structure you have in the organization, that a intern will go to the PD1, and then they will go to the senior designer, they will go to the lead designer. The more the hierarchy is fine, but the discussions, the brainstorming session should happen in a round table. That reduces the friction, saves us a lot of time, and builds a lot of confidence in the team. If you are an IC, try to make sure that you try to build this structure within your team, that you are at least people who are at your level at the moment, you're having those discussions right up front. Now coming to the last and the fourth pillar, which is scaling the design team. Once, let's say, you have ensured that I have done the hiring right, I have developed and made sure that there are collaboration tools out there that are working really well, then comes the part where we call, if this is the right time to scale the team. And now scaling the team could have two different threads. One is that you are scaling in terms of number of employees or number of designers you have in total. Second is you are scaling internally in terms of efficiency of the team. Now scaling comes with its own problem, right? That adding more people might end up reducing the efficiency of the team and increasing the managerial bandwidth of the team, that a lot of people will spend time managing those people as compared to working hands on. So the first step is to understand ki, do we really want to go ahead and make those changes within the team to increase the scaling the team in that sense. Now there is the saying which is followed in the top tech companies or the MNCs as well, that let's say, for example, for every 5 developers that you have in the company, you should have one designer to make sure that the bandwidth is used really well. Now this ratio could be changed for every company. The companies that are really design centric might have one-on-one design developer ratio as well. Companies who have really less design, not really centric around design, might have 7:1 ratio as well, depending on the product that they're building. But you should have that clear understanding that where do we stand and where do we want to go ahead. what is the ideal ratio that we want to have between designer and developers in terms of story points or the bandwidth or whatever the way internally you sort of understand the bandwidth of a team or team members. Do you need someone from outside the company to lead the team or not? Because having somebody from the outside takes a lot of time to set the context and sets off a lot of people in the team itself who feel that they were eligible for that raise, right? So make sure that you are encouraging team members first before going out and finding somebody out to help come lead your team. Now hiring leaders is difficult for sure. That it's more than difficult. It's quite messy to hire those leaders because managerial skills cannot be identified within just a couple of interview rounds, right? You need to really understand that this person who I'm taking from outside the company, or maybe I'm promoting within the company, is really eligible for this role or not. And make sure that what we did in the hiring and the recruitment part, that to set the expectations right up front. Even if you are working as an IC, I'll suggest try to make sure that you ask your manager or whoever is working one step above you, that what are the expectations from me if I want to outgrow myself over a specific period of time. For example, I can say that let's say you're working as a design IC at the moment, and you are go ahead and ask a manager that what should I be doing in the next 6 months to make sure that I outgrow my current role that I'm having. Having that visibility from your manager that okay, these are the things. This could be your manager or could be your mentor or whoever you feel is the right person to sort of get help from. Um, the inputs could be around that you need to understand how to scale those things up, which makes the system more efficient. For example, try to use auto layout and try to make sure that those libraries and the component libraries are really well updated and the stuff. Try to make sure that you are able to handle a couple of interns who do not need a lot of hand holding from somebody who is one step above you. Now the metrics or these key points could be different from company to company, but one essential thing is to have the visibility of those expectations right from the start. Let's not wait for 6 months to see that somebody will come back to me and say that these were the things that I was expecting of you, and you should be doing these things in the next 6 months. Be more proactive when it comes to what I should be doing in the next 5, 6, 7 months. And the last point, as I mentioned, get someone outside design team involved. We as a designers have a lot of bias. Let's say you are a manager and you are working towards finding somebody who has a lot of like you have a lot of crunch in terms of bandwidth. You will end up hiring. How the saying goes that never go for grocery shopping when you are hungry, right? But when you are a designer and you are facing a bandwidth crunch, you will go ahead and hire some designer with a lot of compromises as well. Get somebody from the product team or the tech team involved to make sure that you can define the ROI of this hiring team. Understand the ratio if you are in the right ratio part or not. Because before hiring anybody, the first question should be that can I improve the efficiency of the team up to the mark, and I feel that it could not be improved. Then only go ahead and start hiring for the more roles. Let it be the lead or the ICs or whatever could be the role. Just summarizing it across the four pillars that we just discussed: hiring in the recruitment part, developing and empowering, and then collaboration and communication, and then the last part, which is the scaling part, where you could be scaling within the team members, or you could be scaling the systems that you are following, design systems, libraries, and the documentation part, where you make sure that things become easier over time. Let's say a task was taking this much 3 weeks of time in the last year, that you doing the same task today is taking only 2 days. Then you can say that you have increased the efficiency of the team and you have scaled the team up to this point. Scaling just not mean increasing the number of designers that you have. It also means that you have scaling for a good point where it takes less time to do the same things that were taking a lot of time. But yeah, that was it from my end in terms of what are the four major pillars where you want to stand out. Would be open to a lot of other questions if you might have, and maybe Rory can come up stage and ask those questions as well. But if you have anything outside this as well, I'll love to hear more from you on our LinkedIn, or maybe these are the handles that I have provided where you can reach me out. But yeah, over to you, Rory.
Thank you very much, Ashish. It was a very kind of detailed, and apologies for the little hiccup at the start, but I think you got through it and shared quite a lot of information there about how you can scale your teams. So if anybody has any questions,
Yeah.
please do feel free to comment and put them on whichever platform you're on, and I'll share them with Ashish. But I have one question. It came from that literally your last point there about getting somebody else involved, and it reminded me of Amazon's bar raiser program, where they do the same thing, where you have to get somebody outside because there's too much temptation to fill your team. So with your outside person, do they have a veto power like in Amazon, where the outside person can literally say no, even if the manager really is desperate to get somebody involved?
Yeah, we do have, and this person usually is not outside the organization altogether, but somebody who is from the different, management team or from within the team itself. For example, if you're working for design, somebody from the product, or from the, at a higher scale, the AVP of product, or maybe somebody from that stage might come in, and they won't be given a lot of context around that who we are hiring for and why we are hiring for. They will be just there for more around the cultural fit and the attitude check of the candidate, and making sure that we are not rushing the decision of hiring there.
Brilliant. No, that's good to hear. I think it's a great practice if people can emulate it. Um, and the other question I had on kind of empowering, where you kind of like try to act the step above, like where you currently are at. Um, I've seen this where people almost they're a bit frustrated at their team for everybody wants to be the step above and nobody wants to get their hands dirty and do the actual work. So how do you kind of recommend people manage that, where yes, you need to get your day job done because otherwise your manager is going to be upset with you, but you also need to be thinking about how can I get that step up?
Yeah, so for sure, the first step, if you are working, talking about working on oneself, I'll say, when it comes to hiring, I'll definitely say do check this thing in the hiring bit itself, that you're hiring somebody who is ready to learn those things instead of just working in the comfort zone. But if you're working or maybe trying to sort of improve yourself in that specific point, I'll suggest that um, try to get outside that comfort zone where you are doing just those things which you are asked to do, not just for the sake of the job that you are doing, that you are getting paid to do something here, but think of the points where, let's say, even if you go out this organization and you have to step up the game in some way, even if you go ahead and start something of your own at a later stage, what are the key learnings that you want to do? For example, if I am working here, I might be working not necessarily in the design part that you are looking at one step above. I often sit with product people and try to learn their problem solving skills, the tech people, and try to learn their problem solving skills, right? So that you can engage yourself in those conversations. And the best part about engaging yourself in conversations is that people will start, you will start understanding the value of good questions. And once you start asking good questions, right, your thoughts are being valued over the time and time. And as your thoughts get more value, you will be considered as like, they will be asking you your thought processes whenever a decision is being made, instead of your lead coming to you and telling you that you have to design this thing. Why not bring a culture where the lead is coming to you and discussing the problem statement, and asking for the inputs from your end as well? So when I say that try to be one step above, that is what I'm saying, ki not just go ahead and be work where you are being told to give on a PRD and you are just going ahead and designing solutions out there. Try to become engaged in the thought process and try to solve the problems for those users, and that will bring you up in the ladder automatically, rather than you pushing forward and doing more and more work that won't make a lot of change as compared to your change in your thinking process and the quality of the questions you ask.
Brilliant. No, that's a fantastic answer. So yeah, I think that actually brings us up to time though. So thank you very much, Ashish, for sharing all of your insights and thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.